welcome to Let's Talk Tottenham. Nothing really Tottenham to talk about today other than the fact that there's still no manager and we still have no idea when the manager will be there. Very strange, very strange. But, you know, I am getting emails from Tottenham saying that the Asian tour is happening. So that's all nice. That's all nice. Stuff that really, really doesn't matter at all. But yeah, let's see where that leads. Thanks to everybody for watching. Before you leave, please hit the like and the subscribe. Really helps the channel. And I'm just going to take this background off because it's making everything look a bit weird. There we go. So, yeah. A couple of comments already from Conte's catch-up. I was just told this is about to start, though, through the notification, and then came in and found it says 18 hours time. And Big Sam for Tottenham, what do you think? Yeah, no to Big Sam. Let me just close the curtains. That's better. That's better. Right, okay, we can begin now properly now that I've sorted everything out. But yeah, if you are watching, please hit the like, please hit the subscribe. Really, really helps. Notification bell as well. Really helps the channel. And yeah, I'm just going to amend the light situation. Really helps the channel, like I say. So really, really please do that. It really helps. And get your comments in. Anything you want to say, any questions you have. Really, really appreciate it. Really helps the channel. But we start off with nothing to do with Tottenham. It's all to do with England. Congratulations to Harry Kane. Now, England's all-time leading goal scorer and not just Tottenham's. And here it is. 49 for Bobby Charlton, 53 for Rooney. And then yesterday with a penalty against Italy, Kane has now gone above that onto 54. Tremendous achievement. Didn't really start playing for England until he was 21, 22. So in about 7 years, he's got 54 goals. He's only 29, so he could easily be going for another 4 or 5 years. And God knows how many goals he'll get in that time. You'd expect England to be qualifying for European, the Euros and World Cups. And then if they do, he's likely to be featured in that and will score goals, I would assume, in that as well. So he could easily get to something like about 80 goals, which completely obliterates any of the previous records and will completely obliterate the record now at 54. Absolutely superb achievement and you know, really confident penalty, certainly after what happened in the World Cup with the penalty that missed. Never shies away, does he, Harry Kane, in terms of that? Will always take the penalty. Some players would have missed the penalty and then said, I don't want to take another one. I don't want to have to face that again. Not Harry, not Harry. And, you know, we say he's a striker. He started off as a striker, absolutely, but he's kind of morphing into a striker and number 10 hybrid role at the moment with his passing. And second half, we didn't play that well. England, Italy obviously stepped up and the sending off didn't help. But first half, we played really well. Kane was superb, coming deep. A brilliant cross he put in as well. I think it was Bellingham who just couldn't quite reach it. And then another cross that Grealish, difficult technique to finish, kind of messed it up a little bit. And Kane, obviously, the Declan Rice's goal had a big hand in that as well. Bringing people into play like Saka and Grealish. Absolutely superb. And in terms of Tottenham, imperative that we keep him. If we don't keep him, we are bang in trouble. Unless we completely change the way that we play, bring in a playmaker to replace that. But yeah, still at 29, he's a player that you build your team around. Normally you say that when someone's breaking through, but definitely you do that with your best players, and he is, for England, our best player, and for Spurs, our best player. So congratulations to Harry for breaking another record. If he stays in the Premier League, that Premier League goal scoring record is only a matter of time. If he stays in the Premier League and avoids injury and stays fit, it's only a matter of time. Even if he drops down to a number 10, I think, because he'll still score a hatful of goals, and he'll take all the penalties as well for whatever team he's playing in. But yeah, absolute huge congratulations to Harry Kane, and long may it continue for England and for Spurs. And then we come on to the absolute, from the brilliant and superb to the just comical and farcical, really. The Conte situation. It's been over a week since his epic rant calling players selfish. You've had Højbjerg come out and say he needs to be more specific, which to me says he didn't say anything to the players. He just said it in the media because the players don't know who he's talking about or anything like that, which to me isn't particularly good man management. Kulusevski has then come out and said that it can't be about him because he puts his all into it and everything. Harry Kane was deliberately not asked about that in the England press conferences to make sure he wasn't asked about that. But it's become farcical now. It's been a week. He's in Italy. I know we've got an international break, so we've got 2 weeks off. But really, we need the manager in place for the Everton game, and not a day before the Everton game, but well before the Everton game. And like Mark Cousins here says in the chat, how you doing, Mark? The silence is definite, absolutely. But, you know, they have been busy because they're busy sending me messages and emails about booking my tickets for the Asia tour at the end of the season. It gives a crap about any of that stuff. You want a manager in place, not whether we're playing West Ham and do I want to go and watch them in Asia. Money, isn't it? But yeah, Conte's in Italy at the moment. Doesn't know if he's coming back. We don't know if he's coming back. We don't know who's going to be in charge. The players presumably don't know if who's going to be in charge for the Everton game. A lot of them are with their international teams at the moment. But what are we doing? Like, you must know if he's going to stay or he isn't. If you're Daniel Levy, you must know, and if you're Conte. But it's like the irresistible force versus the immovable object. You know, none of them want to back down. Levy doesn't want to sack him because that costs him money. Conte doesn't want to leave because then he loses any compensation money. And then we're just left in this bloody limbo. But Chris Ackenbar here talked about Son rather than the manager. Scores a wonderful free kick for South Korea, currently 2-2 versus Colombia. Kane, great achievement last night, but stay away from free kicks. Absolutely. You can have the penalties, Son can have the free kicks. How about that as a compromise? But yeah, in terms of the manager situation and Conte, you must know, Levy, if he's going to stay. So just bite the bullet. The compensation isn't going to be that big. He's only got 3 months left, and you know, you're going to lose out on the money anyway from not getting in the Champions League if we stick with him, and the players don't want him there and he doesn't want to be there, or if you just leave it too late and end up without a manager. So, but you know, with these emails that I'm getting about the Asia tour, that's their priority, the money, isn't it? Not the manager situation. It's just, yeah, like Mark Cousins says, the silence is deafening, and it's just every time, and you could easily have had this sorted. You know, get rid of Conte, bring Mason in part-time. At least that's an announcement, and then at least all the players, because Harry Kane's away on international duty, he's keeping an eye on stuff, I'm sure. His agent is telling him what's happening, you know. Nothing's been announced or anything like that. They've got to know. So at least get Mason in or something like that if you're going to get rid of him, or Stellini, and at least they know what they're coming back to. But yeah. So in terms of the rest of the season, if Conte's there and you know the players are selfish, they don't like it and they don't play for him, the season is a complete farce. Not farce, but it's over. Oh, and Mark Cousins has said Australia too. I haven't had that email yet. I assume I'll get that at some point this weekend for the pre-season tour. But yeah, the rest of the season, if Conte stays, he doesn't want to be there. He doesn't like the players because they're selfish, as he calls them. The players are upset with Conte because he's called them selfish, not to their face, but to the media. And they aren't going to play for him, then the season is a bust because we aren't going to get anywhere near top four. We'll end up dropping like a stone. If Conte stays, has cleared the air talks with the players, and it's all hunky-dory from there, we could get fourth. But if we play negative football like we have been, it's going to be a real struggle because anyone can see in our games, when we turn it on and play quickly, we cause anyone problems. When we sit back, our defense isn't good enough to defend football matches, let alone keep clean sheets. So again, we'll drop like a stone, maybe not as rapidly. If we make a change, via Mason in or Stellini in, if the players like him, then you could have that new manager bounce. If they don't like him and they're not that bothered and they are selfish, like Conte says, probably won't make a huge amount of difference. You might get a little bit of a bounce, but not the normal one that you get. Or you get a brand new manager in, and again, do you get the manager bounce? Do they like the new manager? Do they like the new tactics? The likelihood is, if you get a new manager in, even if it's Ryan Mason, the tactics are going to change slightly. So how and we haven't got a huge amount of time, about 11 games. We haven't got a huge amount of time for those to take effect, unless they're going to be, the effect we see fairly instantly. But even Pochettino, when he started, it took him a season and a half to really get his ideas over, and then we saw the complete change. But we were really inconsistent during that year and a half. So unless you have like a kind of Kulusevski impact in terms of the tactics, it'd probably be better to stick with Stellini, because at least they'll know the tactics there, and he seems to give them a little bit more license to go forward. In terms of the new manager, that will probably be, I think, next season. Season ends, and then the new managers in play for the wonderful pre-season tour of Asia and Australia that everyone's getting emailed about, which, quite frankly, is not that important. So, who will be next? I'm talking about permanent manager here. It could be Ryan Mason. So if Ryan Mason or Stellini did get the caretaker role, did well, they could very easily get the permanent role. I don't see that. I see any of those just being the caretaker, and then in the summer, the new manager will come in. So we've pretty much been linked with absolutely everybody. My personal choice would be this man, Ted Lasso. Absolutely wonderful TV show. At least we'd be entertained. I'm, of course, joking. Although he does, his mantra is believe, and we seem to have a lack of belief at the moment. But it's obviously tongue-in-cheek. We've been linked with absolutely everybody, so I thought I'd chuck him in. So I've got a list of managers here that have been linked with us. The obvious choice, and certainly the obvious choice for me, because he's free, would be a return for Pochettino. I said when Conte was appointed, what was that, about 18 months ago, Poch will be in charge again in 18 months. And if Poch comes in, then that's within the 18 months. So I was correct. But I would not want Poch to come back now. It's too early. He's still stuck with Levy. He will go back to 4 at the back, I'm sure, which I think we benefit from. Although Romero, I'm not sure he can play in a 4 at the back. I think it's more a 3 he needs to play in. So it'd be interesting if we did get a manager who plays 4 at the back and Romero's in, how that would work. He's very gung-ho, building the China shop, and will move out of position to close people down, and then you're only left with one defender. So if someone plays it past him, like triangle past him, 1-2, he's completely out of position, and then you're left with one central defender. If the fullbacks are up the pitch, you're completely caught out. But I do think we play better with the 4, and obviously with the 4, only 2 central defenders. That allows you an extra player in there, so a playmaker, and you can still have the Kane, Son, Kulusevski in the up front, or Richarlison if you decide to drop one of those. And I'm sure that's what Poch would do. I think he would go more of attacking. I know there's it was mentioned on Monday's stream. He wouldn't go more attacking because the defense isn't good enough, so you can't go attacking because then you get caught out. But there is that saying, attack is the best form of defense, and I certainly don't think he'd be so like negative play that we have at the moment with Conte, where it's all about just defend, and we can't defend, and then we don't attack either. But like I said, I don't want Poch yet because Levy has already screwed him over once. If he decides to come back and allows himself to come back, then Levy can easily think, I can just screw him over again. He's glutton for punishment. Half the players are still there that threw him under the bus anyway. The rebuild that he called for 4 or 5 years ago still hasn't happened, and the same players are there. And yeah, Carl Simpson in the chat. Big up, Chris. Hope you're well. I'm good. How are you doing, buddy? So that's Poch. I love Poch, obviously, for what he's done. Best manager at Spurs in my lifetime by a mile. Well, Redknapp is close, but obviously Poch best manager in my lifetime for Spurs in the Premier League era. But it's too early for him to come back. I did mention Redknapp. He's been linked. It's more of a caretaker kind of advisory role rather than full-time manager. The rumours that I saw is Mason on a caretaker role with Redknapp, Defoe, and there was someone else who I can't remember as kind of advisory to him. It wouldn't be a bad thing, certainly for a caretaker role. In terms of full-time Redknapp, I don't think that's going to be the case at all. I think he's probably done with football management, certainly in a full-time basis. But again, at least he's a brilliant manager. And you see this whole rant from Conte with Højbjerg coming out saying he needs to be more specific, which to me says he hasn't told the players at all. He's just come out and said it, which for me is not very good management. Redknapp is completely the opposite way. Brilliant manager. So I think he'd give a huge bounce and huge optimism in the squad if he were to come in, even on a part-time basis. With Mason, and he's obviously been there, done that, got the t-shirt as a manager, so he'd help Mason no end. Although Mason has been, shadowing a couple of the best, Conte, Jose, and we'll ignore Nuno. So he must have learned a huge amount. But every time with this show, I create the artwork, the intro picture, a day before, and then something else happens in the news, which then makes that out of date. So the one person I didn't put on is this guy, Julian Nagelsmann, who, according to reports, is pretty much dead cert to be fired from Bayern Munich, and Tuchel, who I did list, who looks to be off the market now, which is good. I don't want him. A good manager, but I just can't stand the guy, and I don't want another ex-Chelsea manager. But Nagelsmann would fit the bill massively, and he'd work for Levy, because he would be free. He'd be out of the job. There'd be no compensation to pay to anyone because he's a free agent. So that is where your Poch and Nagelsmann work for Levy in the sense of money, which is what Levy is concerned about, because they are free. Conte goes at the end of the season and Levy doesn't fire him. He's also gone for free. There's no compensation, which is why I don't think we'll sack Conte this season, because it costs Levy money, and Conte wants his money, so he isn't just going to walk out and wave that money. Yeah, and Carl Simpson, you could argue that Mason has been part of the management team of 3 failed managers. You could. I think that's slightly harsh on Ryan Mason there. But yeah, there's no doubt he's in part of the management setup. So in terms of that, he is part of the management setup for 3 managers that have failed. So it's a good point, although I do think it's slightly harsh. The laughing emoji on the end of there makes me think that Carl was saying that tongue in cheek. But Nagelsmann, so he does generally play 3 at the back, which I'm not a huge fan of, but he does play attacking football, which to me says that we would either have an Alfie Devine come in, who's creative, or certainly in the summer, which is when I think any new manager will come in, we will get a creative player to allow us to play that attacking football. Unless, of course, you bring in a striker or Richarlison goes up top. Kane is your new number 10. I'm not sure that would happen. Maybe when Kane's about 32, 33, maybe when his pace seems to, and his legs have gone a little bit, stick him in the middle so he doesn't have to do a huge amount of running that he does at the moment. But Nagelsmann, we were after him before we got the Nuno appointment after all that nonsense. Young manager, can't believe he's only 35 and he's already been manager of Bayern Munich. Unbelievably highly rated, this guy. But yeah, attacking football. He's also a manager, and Poch certainly was when he started with us, a manager for a project. So Jose, for me, is a manager to win you something, which the whole appointment was a complete waste of time. You bring him in to win something. The first chance he gets to win something, you sack him so you don't have to pay him. Absolutely bizarre. No point in bringing him in. Carl Simpson says about Mason, yes, joking. I think Mason needs to go manage in his own right and maybe a championship club. He needs to get his teeth into a job where he's number 1. I absolutely agree with that, but I don't think that will happen yet unless he decides to leave. But yeah, I'm surprised. He didn't do too bad when he took over from Jose, So I'm surprised that a championship club hasn't come in for him to try and make him the number one, in the same way that, well, not Championship, but Rangers did with Steven Gerrard and Derby did with Frank Lampard. I'm surprised that no one has come in. But I do think, if someone did come in, he would probably want to be a number one, so he probably would move on and then look to maybe be our manager in, 5 years' time, something like that. But yeah, I quite like Ryan Mason. I liked him as a player, and I think he's probably quite a good manager. Well, he must have learnt a lot as well. So I reckon if he a team like you say, Carl, in the Championship or maybe even lower, where there's not that much pressure, I think he'd do quite well. I think it would serve him really, really well. But yeah, Nagelsmann now would be my pick. We tried to get him before, really highly rated. Meant to be a really good manager as well, which I've said with the Conte rant with Højbjerg's comments. Doesn't seem like good man management to me. And the reason he got fired at Chelsea as well was the text message to Diego Costa telling him he's not in his plans. I mean, that to me, not even GFA. That's like breaking up with someone via text and not having the balls to go and say it to their face. So, yeah, I don't think Conte's man management is very good, to be honest. But yeah, and Nagelsmann with the project. Conte, Jose, was brought in to win a trophy. We obviously didn't give him that chance. Absolutely ridiculous. Conte is another one. He's not a project manager. Generally, you bring Conte in, you give him the players that he wants, he goes and wins you a trophy or a league. We haven't given him the players that he wants. He wanted Bastoni. No one's fault that Bastoni didn't want to come. That's fine. At least we tried to get him. We then get Longley, who's nowhere near as good. Jed Spence, he wanted an attacking wing back. We've got Porro now. We should have got him in the summer rather than Jed Spence, even though I do quite like Jed Spence. So you bring in the players that Conte wants. He then goes and wins you leagues, and that hasn't happened. But even then, he wins you a league, maybe doesn't win it the next season, then he goes off the deep end, and then it's over. So he's generally only a manager for about 3 years. Whereas Nagelsmann and Poch as well. Poch, if we'd have backed him with his rebuild that he asked, he'd still be manager now, and I think we would have won something by now if we'd have given him what he wanted. So they are both managers for a project. And that's who we kind of need. Like I said, I wouldn't have Poch back yet. Not with Levy still at the helm and half the players who threw him under the bus. Nagelsmann, definitely. So he would be my pick. But who else has been linked? So there's a couple of others. So Redknapp, probably not linked, but as a kind of advisory role. Tuchel was linked. But it looks like he's going to Bayern Munich now, so that one's done. The other big one is De Zerbi, currently Brighton manager, who's done a brilliant job there. He's done brilliant jobs as well elsewhere that he's been. I can't remember where it was, somewhere in Spain. I should do my research, but I haven't. And Carl Simpson agrees. Nagelsmann, 100% get him in now. Exactly what we need. Would you have him in right now, this second with 11 games left, where he's got to work with what he's got? Or would you have a Mason in and then sign Nagelsmann up to start, 1st of June or whenever the season ends, and then the transfer window opens, and then start next season? It can be his team because he would hopefully have got the players in and out that he wanted. For me, I'd get Mason in till the end of the season, with or without Redknapp and Defoe and all of those guys. Nagelsmann, sign him up, get him signed up, contract signed, start of the pre-season, you're in. That's what I'd do. But 100% Nagelsmann is my pick now. De Zerbi, in terms of the Premier League, he hasn't had a huge amount of experience. He started off really slowly. But Brighton, they're pushing us for top 4 and Newcastle for top 4. Absolutely superb. Everyone thought when Potter left, oh my God, Brighton are going to fall like a stone. And Zerbi's come in and arguably done even better. The issue with Potter was that they didn't really score goals, whereas Brighton now score goals. And if he came in and had a Harry Kane and a Son and can get them playing as well, that's a huge amount of goals right there and there. So I wouldn't be averse to De Zerbi. I'm not sure if he plays 3 at the back or not, but he certainly plays attacking football. And I would be absolutely amazed now after Jose, Nuno, and Conte if Levy didn't go for someone who was an attacking manager. Yeah, not just attacking because I've got the players who can attack, but whose philosophy and belief is to attack. I'd be absolutely amazed. So Nagelsmann, Poch, and De Zerbi all fit that bill. And Carl Simpson with Nagelsmann. If we get him now, I would take him now. I just worry if Mason is in, will we get Europe? Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it, Carl? I think if we stay with Conte, based on what he said, I can't imagine the players are going to be too happy. So I think if we stay with Conte, we're going to fall like a stone because they won't play for him. They won't care. They just want him out. Mason, it depends if you'll get the new manager bounce. Obviously, you may not for a lot of the players because he's been in there before. But yeah, I just worry with Nagelsmann. If he came in, he wouldn't have the players that he necessarily wants. Yeah, I'd keep now. I personally, I'd put Mason in now, and then the summer get Nagelsmann in, and then the whole of next season, if you include pre-season in that as well, is Nagelsmann. And you start the season with the players he wants rather than now. But if it was a case like, 2 teams are interested in him, one wants him now and we want him at the start of next season, bring him in now. Absolutely. Get him signed up. Better to have him in now than wait a few months just for him to go to somewhere else. But if someone like a Real Madrid wanted him, unfortunately, I don't think he's coming to Tottenham. Mark Cousins, absolutely. Mike Bassett in. At least we'll play 4-4-2. Absolutely. And he's been England manager as well, so he knows how to deal with big egos. And the other, before the Nagelsmann firing from Bayern, this was my pick, Thomas Frank from Brentford. I had Brentford go down and really struggled this season. Certainly last season, they brought Eriksen in, completely transformed them. In the summer, they lost Eriksen. I thought they'd be in all sorts of trouble, and they're doing even better. They score goals. They're really attacking, really entertaining to watch. And they generally don't concede too many goals. So he would be my pick. If we can't get Nagelsmann, he would be my pick. Whether he'd leave Brentford to come to Tottenham with a chairman who just does what he wants, whereas at Brentford he's got a fantastic relationship with that chairman, and he's got a job for life pretty much there, I would have thought, at Brentford if he wanted it. But yeah, he I don't think he'll be at Brentford for life, because I think a top team will come in for him at some point. And like you've seen with Graham Potter, if you're a manager, you've got to take that chance to see if you can do it at that higher level, with all due respect to Brighton. Carl, I'm more worried about Chelsea if we hold off till the end of the season. It's an interesting one with Potter. If Potter did get fired, would you have him at Spurs? Because he was my pick before we got Nuno. He obviously doesn't score that many goals, but then he hasn't had Harry Kane or Son Heung-min in his team, or Kulusevski. Thomas Frank would be my second pick. So Nagelsmann, Frank for me. Then probably De Zerbi and then Poch last, just because, if Levy moved aside tomorrow and we got a new owner who said we're going to do everything that the manager wants, then it would shift and I'd be saying Poch number 1 target. But Levy ain't going anywhere, so therefore for me, Poch can't come back yet, because he's just going to be screwed over again, because he's going to be seen as a glutton for punishment by Levy. So that's firstly, my first pick is via Mason to the end of the season. But in terms of next season, my order would be Nagelsmann, Thomas Frank, De Zerbi, and Poch. That would be my order. It'd be interesting to see in the chat what is your order for the manager. Certainly not next season, not so much for the rest of this season. Carl says, we might as well have put a clause in there. The Chelsea contracts say you must manage Spurs after you are sacked. It does seem that way. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm quite pleased Tuchel is gone. He may be quite good. I can't stand the guy. And it's another Chelsea manager. And Dan E, how you doing, buddy? If Nagelsmann is available, we have to take this opportunity. He literally ticks all the boxes. Absolutely. I think if you asked 100 Spurs fans, I think a vast, vast majority of them would say Nagelsmann is their number one target now. Whether they are Spurs and Levy's, I saw we're contemplating it or looking into it. It's just we're interested in it. It's just go and get the fucking guy. What's the point, FC? Neil Warnock for me with Big Sam as his assistant. And he says, if you hit me upside the head at times, I'll remember that I support Spurs, sadly. Yeah, how you doing, buddy? But yeah, that'll be my pick. Nagelsmann, Frank, De Zerbi, and then begrudgingly if we can't get any of those, Poch. But yeah, Ryan Mason for me until the end of the season. But I think it's fairly safe to say a lot of Spurs fans would also agree. It'd be interesting to see if you do in the chat. Conte has to go. If Conte stays, I think we're all over the place. He's just called out the players and their professionalism in public to the media without allegedly or seemingly talking to them. It just, I don't see how he can continue. But this whole silence is just ridiculous. Like Mark said, speaks volumes, and it's deafening, this silence. We don't do anything. We're not proactive. And Carl Simpson agree with this as well. Poch can't come back until we have changed owners. Absolutely. Whenever that will be. If that will be, I'm not sure. And Danny, I know one thing. If we get Nagelsmann, the fans won't be moaning about boring football anymore. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like you say, Dan, he ticks all of the boxes. And this is a guy that we tried to get before we got Nuno as well. And in terms of, Levy, we're going back to the Spurs DNA. He ticks all of those boxes in terms of the Spurs DNA, which is attacking progressive football. And what's the point? I want Daniel Levy to manage us to the rest of the season, I hope, with a target on his head. He says no bottles allowed. Be interesting if he'd fire himself. I doubt he would. But yeah, let me come on to the Højbjerg and Kulu comments. So this is kind of old news now. We've only got a picture of Højbjerg. I'm not sure where the Kulu one is. No offence to Kulu there. Yeah, Carl Simpson. I think Conte will be in charge the rest of the season. He won't leave and Levy won't pay the compensation. Absolutely. I think that's the issue as well. I think two stubborn idiots who just won't back down. And, one of them has to do it for the team, but one of them won't because they don't want to be seen as being weak. And all that's going to happen is the team is going to suffer. I don't see how we can qualify for the Champions League or have a good end to the season if Conte's in charge after everything that he said. I just don't see, unless he has complete clear the air talks. Look, I'm leaving in a few months. Just do your best for me now. Then I'll go out in the media and say I was wrong. They do have professionalism. They're not selfish. And then we go our separate ways. But again, I can't see him backing down like that. I just can't see him backing down like that. And yeah, I think the players probably have lost interest in him now and don't care. And we're gonna get screwed because of it. And what's the point? Harry Kane as player manager was done as assistant. Well, at least Harry loves Spurs, so they might keep him here if he was a manager as well as a player and captain. But yeah, Højbjerg's comments, like I've said before, Højbjerg saying he's got to be more specific, and again coming out and saying I put my all into every game, so defending himself there, is that a guilty conscience? I'm not sure. Højbjerg, I've always thought, has put in 110% every single game. But yeah, got to be more specific. Who are you talking about? Which ones are you singling out? Or is it everybody? And to me, like I've said time and time again, I think that says that Conte finished the game, didn't go in the dressing room and say this to the players. He just said that to the media. And it's just a bit two-faced and a bit gutless, I think. I know Conte was angry and he has that in his locker to go absolutely crazy and mad. But yeah. Yeah, I just think it's really, really poor management, man management. Alex Ferguson always said you never, ever call your players out in public. He always did it in the changing rooms and in private. The only reason it ever got out was because David Beckham had a cut above his eye, so it had to be revealed what he'd done and accidentally kicked a hairdryer, I think it was. A football boot, which caught him on the eye. But he never called him out in public. And I think you lose any trust that you have going behind someone's back and screaming and shouting to other people about them rather than telling it to their face. Fine if he wants to say that to the media, but you've got to say that to the players first, I think, because it's a bit two-faced and you lose any trust I think you have, you ever had with those players and those people because you've done it behind their back. And I think it's a big, big error. And like I say, I don't see how he can continue and we can achieve anything this season with him in charge. Carl Simpson, sure we can wheel out David Pleat from somewhere, and what's the point? Conte couldn't be any more specific. Højbjerg, learn how to pass the ball, is what Conte said. Yeah, possibly true, but I still think he's got to say it to the players' faces before he goes out in the media and says it to the media. And literally, he's gone and said it to the media and then jetted off to Italy. So he hasn't even said anything after the fact either. Kulu's comments are pretty similar. I give everything. I'll still stay at Spurs, regardless of who the manager is. I don't think it will affect their obligation to buy me. I hope not, because he's a proper quality player. And, under an attacking manager, you know, a Nagelsmann, a Frank, a Zerbi, a Poch, he could really, really flourish. 22, 23 as well, still eager to learn. And sky's the limit for him. What's the point? Sure, the players will find it very hard to sleep on their expensive pillows tonight. Big up, everyone. Big up, Terry Wright, as well. How you doing, buddy? And what's the point? I'm delighted Conte called them out. They deserved it, as most of them are still in and living at Spurs. I mean, I agree with calling them out, and certainly the board as well. I just think the way he did it is wrong. I think if you call anyone out like that, you certainly, when you're their manager, you've got to say it to their face first. And even if you say, this is what I think, I'm going to tell the media this because I'm angry. I think doing it behind their back, it's like a breakup. You know, you break up with someone via text message. I think that's the wrong way to do that as well. You've got to say it to someone's face. Certainly if you've been in a long-term relationship with them. And what's the point? It's about time manager called them out. It was needed. They'll stop playing for the next manager as well. After a time, I think they will probably. But that's where, you know, Poch said the rebuild needs to happen. You've got players who become comfortable and stale. You've got to get them out, change things up, change the team up, and get players out who are feeling comfortable. That's where Levy has really, really messed up. Poch, he had money in the bank. He got us to a Champions League final. He got us in other finals. Yeah, couldn't quite get over the line. Got us title contenders. He earned the right to be able to have that rebuild, and Levy threw him under the bus. And that is where Levy has really, really messed up. And a few more comments coming in. How you doing? Carl, we need to get rid of the rubbish number one priority. JKK Weck, how you doing? How do you know? Conte never told the players before the press interview. I think he'd been telling them until he gave up. That's true. What I mean is Højbjerg saying they've got to be more specific. So to me, I don't think he said, you need to do this, you need to do that. This is just my opinion of what I think has happened. I could easily be wrong. But yeah, to call out, and I don't agree with calling out your players like that in the media, because you're just going to lose all the trust there. But he could easily have told them, but as a collective, rather than you need to do this or you need to do that. But I just think it was poor management, man management rather. And what manager would put up with Eric Dyer for 3 windows without getting a replacement for him? I mean, I agree with that. I mean, if we're wanting to be Champions League qualifiers and then push on and win leagues and cups, keep Eric Dyer by all means, but as a backup, he can't be your number one. If Eric Dyer is your number one, much as I quite like Eric Dyer, you're not going to be winning things. And yeah, what's the point? A couple more. Same old story. A manager leaves with a half-built team and a weak bench. That's why we never win anything. And yeah, this comes to the rebuild that Poch asked about. And yeah, we never follow through with a project because Levy always sacks the manager. I mean, the project with Poch was absolutely fine until it needed some money and investment, and then Levy didn't like that, and then that's where it ended. But yeah, in terms of Højbjerg, Kulu, and everything like that, I'm assuming I could be wrong. Like I said, that he hasn't really told the players that. He's just got angry, probably given them the silent treatment, and then come out in the press and said that, and then jetted off to Italy. If he has told them and the players are sulking, then you're professionals at the end of the day. You know, it'd be the same as if I didn't do any work, my manager would call me in and have a go at me. You know, he'd probably tell their manager as well before they told me. But, you know, that's fine. If I'm not doing what I should be doing, I can't really argue. But my manager would tell me, and I'm not sure Conte has. That's all I got from the Højbjerg thing. It could be Højbjerg trying to save face. Could easily be that. But I don't get that feeling with Højbjerg. But yeah, we've got international break soon. Hopefully no injuries, certainly to Kane. Like Chris Agenbar said, Son scoring a wonderful free kick. So it looks like he's playing really well. And yeah, Kane obviously going to be flying now. And what's the point? The players should thank their lucky stars. Conte isn't Big Sam. I don't think we'll get Big Sam because we're going back to the Spurs DNA, apparently, which is not hoof it up long to Kevin Davies. But yeah, be interesting what happens now. International break. I think it's the last one before the season ends. Out of the Champions League, out of the FA Cup, League Cup is already done. So all we've got is the league. So theoretically, a game a week, although I'm sure it'll be a bit more congested than that because of the World Cup shortening the season a little bit. But yeah, got a pretty tricky month, I think in February, with a couple of big teams there. But we just have to pick up as many points as we can. For me, I'd be getting rid of Conte, Mason in interim. Whether Conte was right or wrong in what he said and the content of what he said, I don't think he was wrong. I think just the way he said it and went about it was wrong. I think whether he's right or not, I think the players have probably lost trust in him now, and his stubbornness hasn't helped him this season. You know, consistently playing negative football, even though it clearly hasn't worked. Consistently doing it. The whole don't trust the wing backs, refuse to play Jed Spence hasn't helped. You've got to have an element in your team, I think, that if you're playing well or training well, you get shot in the team. If you come in and you play well, you get shot in the team. And I mean, that probably goes to the fact that he doesn't trust many of the players, which is an issue in itself. But yeah, Spurs DNA, do not act. Spurs DNA, do not achieve. Yeah. Unfortunately, you shouldn't really be laughing at that because it's probably true. But yeah, for me, I don't see how Conte can carry on, and the fact that we haven't said anything, it's all speculation, doesn't help. The indecisiveness and what's happening doesn't help anybody. The players need to know who the manager is when they come back, not a day before. And like I say, if it can be salvaged with Conte and the players, even just for a few months, I guess that's okay. We won't be playing attractive football. Obviously, it'll still be the negative football. I mean, we've got to go away to Newcastle. I think we've got Man United at home in consecutive games. So they're going to be tricky games. I think that's in February. It might be March. But yeah, I don't see how Conte can stay, to be perfectly honest. Unless there is some way that he can salvage it and then he gets someone like a Kane to really, who's the leader of the team now, really, certainly captain now as well, that Lloris is out. Although I did see that Lloris played against Ipswich in the reserves, so I wouldn't put him back in. I'd stick with Forster until the end of the season. Maybe if the last game's a rubber game at home, stick Lloris in, get him the send-off that he deserves because he's been fantastic for us rather than regardless of the last couple of years. Terry Wright, I sure hope this Conte saga doesn't drag on for too long. It will be unneeded distraction for the team. I think Terry has dragged on for too long already. A decision should have been made the day after that he said it. Is he going? Is he staying? And then that's it. But Conte doesn't want to be sacked, doesn't want to leave because he doesn't get any compensation. Levy doesn't want to sack him because he doesn't want to pay the compensation, and we're just stuck in limbo, so are the players and everybody else. Would not surprise me though if Conte wasn't fired and he just didn't come back and just stayed in Italy. He's got kind of just that kind of person who I'll just do whatever the hell I want. I don't care. But yeah, like you say, Terry, it's a distraction for the team. It's an easy excuse for them to say why they're not performing well. We didn't know what happened with the manager situation. Very difficult. So for me, Ryan Mason in, end of the season, then get your new manager in, who for me, if it was up to me, it would be Nagelsmann all day long. I'll be breaking the bank and doing everything I can to get Nagelsmann in. If Nagelsmann has a few offers, scrap Ryan Mason, get him in now. Just get Nagelsmann in. I think that is the way to go. But yeah, it's looking like his assistant might take the position of manager with Ryan Mason by his side. Is what's the point? FC says. But yeah, it's just should have been sorted by now. Any big team doesn't piss around and doesn't hang around all of this stuff. They sort things out. And unfortunately, as much as we want to be, we're not acting like a big team. But that is pretty much it today. There's not a huge amount left to talk about. Because we don't know what's going to happen. Until we know what's happening, we can't really say what is going to happen. And what needs to happen is we need clarification either way. Is Conte staying for the rest of the season, or is Conte gone and is someone else in charge for the Everton game? If the answer to that is yes, who is that? Get them in now. And stop sending me emails about the bloody Asia tour and Australia tour until you've sorted out the manager. That's the more important thing, the manager, not where we're playing in pre-season. But yeah, that's what I want to see happen now before this Everton game. But will it? Probably not. We're probably going to be here. I'm probably going to be here next week talking about exactly the same thing, previewing Everton with who's in charge. No bloody clue. But yeah, absolute. Yeah. Good question here from Terry before we go. Do you think Nagelsmann want the job? I think he may want a bigger job. There is that. I mean, going to Bayern Munich, you can't really get much bigger than that. So if Real Madrid came calling, Real Madrid and Spurs came calling, it's not even a contest. We're still looking for a new manager. I think, even though I said Ryan Mason, it probably is a good idea to just go and break the bank to get him now. He signs a deal, therefore he can't go anywhere else. Yeah, you've got him with a load of players that you probably don't want, but at least you've got him in. So maybe I'll rescind the Ryan Mason. If you can get Nagelsmann at the start next season, Ryan Mason in charge now, Nagelsmann at the start next season. If Nagelsmann is going to get offers, which you'd have thought he would, yeah, maybe get him in now for the Everton game. And what's the point? Daniel Levy can appease me now by signing James Maddison. He's the one that I want as well for an attacking playmaker. Will we get him? Probably not, because he's going to cost a lot of money. It wouldn't surprise me if he goes to Newcastle next summer, or in the summer, rather. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Thank you, everybody, for watching and all your comments in. Please, before you go, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and the notification bell. Notification bell means that you don't need to check when we're live. You'll be notified on YouTube as long as you subscribe. Subscription and likes really, really help the channel. Really do appreciate it. And a couple more comments in. Seems like a perfect Chelsea manager. Wouldn't be surprised if they sack Porro and get Nagelsmann. That would be annoying. And yeah, I wonder what would happen to Potter then if he'd come to us. He probably would come to us, wouldn't he? Yeah. And yeah, have a good weekend. Take care all, says Terry. Same to you, Terry, and same to everyone. What's the point? Trophies are coming. Let's hope so. That's it. Please hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell. Like I say, jump over to Chris's Magic, my other channel. Just a magic trick once a week, 7:30 p.m. UK time on Wednesdays. I'll be back on Monday talking about the international break. Hopefully have a few guests on, and there'll be more talk about the manager situation on tour, I'm sure. 7:30 p.m. UK time. That's here on Let's Talk Tottenham. So yeah, please do all of that. like, subscribe, notification bell on both of the channels, and be back on Monday. Have a good weekend, and as always, come on you Spurs.
Thanks so much for watching. For everybody who joined in the live chat and added comments, before you go, please leave a like and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Also, please hit that notification bell. That'll give you a notification every time we're about to go live, and it's all completely free. For those who missed the live show, you can catch this whenever you want on Let's Talk Tottenham's YouTube channel. Please also hit the like, subscribe and notification bell, and everybody please leave feedback, comments, suggestions in the comments section on the YouTube videos. For those of you who listen to the audio podcast, thank you so much for listening. Anyone who wants that audio podcast, you can pick that up wherever you get your podcast from. We're back Mondays 7:30pm UK time and Fridays 12:30pm UK time. Alternatively, if you go to Twitter @LTalkTottenham, Instagram Let's Talk Tottenham Podcast, you can find all the information there. Anyone who wants something a little bit different, also do a magic show. So I do one trick a week, which drops Wednesday 7:30pm UK time. Chris's Magic on YouTube is where you'll find that. But in the